Chance at 70. Embiid, coast to coast for
70! The date is Wednesday, June 24th, 1992. The Orlando Magic drafted a player you may have heard of before, Shaquille O'Neal, from LSU University as the first overall pick in the draft.
With the first pick in the 1992 NBA draft, the Orlando Magic selects Shaquille O'Neal from Louisiana State University.
And this young phenom absolutely dominated the league from day one. This player became the most feared opponent for opposing bigs in the paint. I mean, once he got the ball in the paint, the other team might as well just go set up their offense at that point. The man to this day is called the most dominant force the league has ever seen. But now, imagine this freight train of an NBA player had a consistent jump shot and could hit free throws. Well, you don't need to imagine. Joel Embiid is that player. Embiid is going on an absolute rampage this season. The guy's putting up once in a generation, scratch that, once in NBA history level stats, while being neck and neck with the Milwaukee Bucks for the 2 seed in the East. But how good is Joel Embiid really playing though? Is Joel Embiid really 36 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks good? Or is this recent surge in offense league-wide and the officials that give him all the free throw chances in the world carrying him? Right here, we have a chart that shows the NBA's top scoring seasons of all time in terms of per 100 possessions. Per 100 possession stats are different than your typical points, rebounds, and assists per game. What per 100 possession stats do is calculate how many points a player would average if they hypothetically played a standard 100 possessions a game. These stats are really good at comparing production numbers across different eras, and throughout NBA history, a mark of 40 points or more per 100 has been proven to be a historic season of scoring. So let's go through this. Of the NBA's 77-year history, we've seen 47 individual seasons where a player has averaged 40 plus points a game per 100. Right here, at the far left, we have Wilt Chamberlain's famous 50-point per game season in 1962, where he actually only averaged 41.5 points per 100. Now, looking at more recent times, around the 80s and later, we see guys like Bernard King, George Gervin, and Dominique Wilkins make an appearance on here. Shaq and Karl Malone are both seen on here multiple times. But MJ dominated the 80s and 90s with his scoring, appearing 9 separate times, the most of any NBA player in history. The league saw a decline in scoring during this patch, also known as the dead ball era, where there was only 2 appearances in a 10-year span from 1999 to 2008, that being Kobe and T-Mac. Then eventually offense started to pick back up again with players like LeBron, D-Wade, and Melo. And then guys like KD, Curry, Westbrook, and Harden took it to a whole nother level. And currently we're seeing the new superstars go even higher than the previous ones. Guys like Luka, Giannis, Shea, and Embiid all dominating the list currently. But if you thought 40 points per 100 possessions was a lot, just imagine averaging 50 points per 100. Well, once again, you don't have to imagine. Joel Embiid this season is averaging an incomprehensible 51.4 points per 100 possessions. Joel Embiid is just flat out unguardable. Of course, every season there are going to be players that are near impossible to stop on offense, but rarely do we ever see a player that simply has no answer to stop them. You could say that about Wilt, you could say that about Kareem, MJ, Shaq, Kobe. You could argue LeBron and Harden during certain pockets of time, but Joel Embiid, how the hell do you actually stop Shaquille O'Neal with a knockdown jumper? Well, let's go through some of his recent games. First, we're going to break down Embiid's 41-point game against Jokic and the Nuggets about 2 weeks ago. Embiid's first bucket starts off with this pick for Tyrese Maxey. Jokic is in complete drop coverage here, which leaves Embiid wide open from 3. Then he uses Jokic's momentum against him, and even the double team from KCP doesn't really matter, an easy bucket. Once again, we see this similar 2-man game from Maxey and Embiid, where Joel ends up wide open from the wing 3 again. Except Joel Embiid, a 36% three-point shooter, knocks down the semi-wide open shot easily. Now, a really underrated part of Embiid's offense is his passing ability, where he finds Batum cross-court wide open in the corner.
Got to get one up, it's off in time, and Batum reigns in a three-pointer.
The Sixers love this 2-man game right here. Maxey gets cut off baseline and hits an in-rhythm Embiid from 3.
Getting a rare opportunity to play.
Embiid hits a 3.
In this play, Embiid finds himself mismatched with KCP on him, and I guess taking it to the rim has gotten too boring for him, so he gets in his Dirk Nowitzki fadeaway bag. Embiid here gets an entry pass to the elbow, and just the sheer offensive attention he brings, averaging 36 a game. I mean, look at this, there's 3 guys right by him, and Jokic who's completely locked into Joel. So he finds the open man in Tobias Harris for 3.
Move there by Embiid. Dishes to Harris.
Embiid really took a page out of Carmelo Anthony's playbook with this one. Just absolutely filthy in the triple threat.
Moves at him, a foul, and one!
Joel in this game was really in his shooting bag. I mean, if he really wanted to, he could just go play bully ball, Shaquille O'Neal mode. The Nuggets should be thanking Joel that he wanted to play like Dirk that night, because when he wants to play like Shaq, this happens. 70 points against the NBA's stocks leader. Yes, you heard me right, stocks, as in steals plus blocks. Yeah, Wemby is dominating this stat, and Embiid made him look like a little kid. Let's take a look into this game. This play right here pretty much summarizes Joel's performance in a nutshell.
Sixers lead the NBA in 3 points.
Brute force against this walking stick figure. Let's look at this beautiful seal on Zach Collins from Embiid. There's really nothing you can do at this point besides pray once he has you this far. Nicholas Batum misses this wide open 3, and this isn't even fair.
Embiid the offensive rebounds. Can't finish. Gets it again.
Just a man amongst boys. And then once he gets bored of easy post-ups, about once every 3 to 4 plays, Embiid reminds us that he can still do stuff like this.
KJ Martin in as well. Embiid.
Like, how do you game plan against a guy who can do this, besides just waiting until the playoffs? Embiid here gets this pass near the block and immediately gets doubled. But of course, this literally does nothing. He does a Kobe here and says tell him to bring a third. There were 4 Spurs within 3 feet of this man. This was Wemby's rude awakening to start that 2017 Giannis body transformation, or else it's going to be a rough time for him down low.
Competition tonight. He averages 19.9 points per game. He's already got 24 in his first 16 minutes. Embiid a couple of...
Welcome to the league, young fella. Once again, Embiid reminds us that he can still pass the ball very well for a big man. What a beauty. Once again, Joel gets it near the rim, and you might as well just go set up your offense at this point, because it's either 2 points, free throws,
a spin, another fade,
or both.
To the Duncan again.
Shot clock at 5. At 4, Embiid from outside, tying his career high.
Now just imagine he could do this in the playoffs. He would be sending opposing coaches nightmares. And Embiid isn't just a shot chucker who takes 10 million field goals a night. Of course he shoots the ball a lot to score this big, but Joel Embiid is having a historic efficient scoring season. Right here is what Embiid's shooting splits by range looks like. The process this year is shooting 56.8% from all twos, 75% from shots 0 to 3 feet, 46% from shots 3 to 10 feet, 50% from 10 to 16 feet, 53% from 16 to 3-point range, and is shooting 36% from 3. Now, how about we compare these splits to a historically great offensive season? How about 2014 MVP Kevin Durant? KD 10 years ago shot 55% from 2, about 80% from 0 to 3 feet, 41% from 3 to 10 feet, 44% from 10 to 16 feet, also 44% from 16 to under 3-point range, and 39% from 3. Joel Embiid is beating one of the greatest mid-range scorers of all time in the mid-range in the middle of his prime. Absolutely absurd. On top of that, Embiid's individual production on the court has literally been something that's never been done before. Do you guys remember about 2 years ago in 2022 where Nikola Jokic was breaking efficiency records left and right? Well, what if I told you that Embiid was exceeding the sky-high bar that Nikola Jokic set for effectiveness? PER in basketball is a stat that quantifies per minute production from players. And just 2 years ago, Nikola Jokic redefined the standard of player effectiveness of 32.85, which was the greatest of all time at that point. But Embiid this year, with a PER of 35.55, is on track to literally have the greatest season of all time, according to PER. Now, going back to that Spurs game we talked about before, Joel Embiid dropped a jaw-dropping, a mind-numbing 70 points along with 18 rebounds and 5 assists last Monday. But how truly impressive is this game compared to games this year, the last few years, and even games across NBA history? Well, there's actually a solid, reliable way to track the impact of individual games. The stat is called Game Score. It was created by none other than basketball stat nerd himself, John Hollinger, and the formula to calculate it looks like this. Yeah, I'm not even going to try to explain this, just going to take his word for it. The usage of this stat dates back to as early as the late 70s. Before we dive deep into the stat, let's first take in some context about how good a certain score is. To start us off, an average night from an average player would give them about a 10 game score. A pretty good night from your average player would give them around a 20-point game score. A great performance would be around the 30 range. Or in other words, this is about an average game for players like Embiid, Jokic, Giannis, Luka, and Shea. A 40-point game is like a really good performance from a superstar. And any game that's 50 points or above, according to Game Score, would put you in history for one of the greatest games of all time. So let's look at the top 40 games this season, according to Game Scores. It takes about 37 points or higher to crack the list, with players like Shea, Halliburton, LeBron, Dame, and more around here. It takes about a 40-point game score to be in the top 20 this season. Players like Giannis, Luka, Maxey, D-Book, and Embiid. To crack the top 4 this year, it takes about 50 points or more from Game Score. Jalen Brunson did it on December 15th, where he dropped 50 points, 9 assists, and 6 boards against the Suns. Luka Doncic gave his son Devin Booker and the Suns a wonderful Christmas present with 50 points, 6 boards, 15 assists, 4 steals, and 3 blocks. Now remember this game when the Pacers tried to steal the game ball and Giannis chased them down like they just murdered his son? Yeah, this was the second best game this year, where Giannis dropped 64 points, 14 rebounds, and 4 steals. But there's still one game that's better. Joel Embiid, a few days ago last Monday, had a game score of 62.5, where he absolutely torched Wemby and the Spurs with 70 points, 18 rebounds, and 5 assists. A nice little welcome to the league moment for Wemby. And not only does Joel Embiid just have this game, but he has 3 top 7 games, 4 top 11 games, and 6 top 40 games this year. Joel Embiid is just a flat-out monster. But how well does this 70-point game place compared to the greatest single-game performances of all time? Well, let's find out. When looking at the top 40 single-game performances according to Game Score, it takes around 50 points or more to appear. You have players like Damian Lillard, Kobe, Mike, and even Jalen Brunson's game this year. Harden and Doncic are around the top 20. LeBron, Giannis, D-Book, and Dame are all on here again. And eventually we climb the chart high enough to find Joel Embiid's 70-point game on here from Monday. Embiid literally had the 3rd greatest game of all time last week. The only other games that rank higher was Kobe's 81-point game against the Raptors in 2006, which gave him a game score of 63.5, and Michael Jordan, who had the greatest game of all time against the Cavs in 1990 in an overtime thriller where he had 69 points, 18 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals. To really conclude here, Joel Embiid's performance this season has been nothing short of historic, placing him amongst and even ahead of the elite players in NBA history. Embiid has showcased an unparalleled level of dominance on the court this year and is blossoming into one of the greatest offensive talents the game has ever seen.